We're going to write a blog post. We're going to cover a topic that I'm actually interested in. It's called talent stacking, and it's about being fairly average or maybe even below average, but having many different skills, and it makes you kind of marketable and you have a cool skill set. So I've kind of done this myself, and it's a concept that I learned about from Scott Adams in a book called How to Fail at Everything and Still Win Big. It's a good book if you haven't checked it out. We're going to use basically a recipe here, and we may not use all the pieces of the recipe. I think there's probably a template in here that you probably could use, and I think it would be probably putting a few of these together, like blog post topic ideas, outline, intro, conclusion, and all that kind of stuff. But the recipes seem to work pretty well. So if I hop down here, blog post recipe, I'm going to click open. And recipes are a series of commands. So you can see it right here. And one of the things that I didn't understand when I first started using tools like Jasper was putting the right data into the tool so that you have good output. So one of the things that we can do is actually just go research. So I just Googled talent stack and found this over on this random website, personalexcellence.co, and they have a blog post about talent stacking. So I do have some reference material to look at if needed. And I also Googled it. There's actually a website called talentstacking.com, and it is not associated with Scott Adams, but there's some, information here. This dude has a YouTube channel. I haven't even checked it out, but it's here just in case, so I can reference it if I need to. So let's go back over here. If you don't know how to use the recipes, or you want to check out a specific recipe, you could watch the little video. There's tutorials for most of these. So I'm just going to click run, and it sends us into our document area. So this is like the most powerful portion of the thing that we are going to be using. And I'm just going to keep it vague, and we'll call it like develop your talent stack, something like that. And for the commands here, basically you end up just replacing whatever is in the curly brackets here. One thing you always want to do is put in the title. So develop your talent stack, and we'll say, and why talent stacking is powerful. And what we'll do, we'll call it, we'll put this whole thing in for the topic. So you just paste it in there. I'm going to change this to longer. I don't care if it's witty or whatever. I'm going to leave that blank. And I'm not going to put anything in for the content description or brief at this time, nor keywords, and make that content length longer so we get a longer output. And I'll just click compose. So we'll see what we come up with here. And it tells us what is talent stacking, why is it important. Cool. So we have some stuff here. So what is talent stacking, and why is it important? So very good. So that's a pretty good start. So talent stacking is the process of developing a well-rounded skill set by combining various talents and abilities. It can be done by taking on different roles within an organization, pursuing different hobbies or interests, or even developing new skills through learning opportunities. When done effectively, talent stacking can create powerful competitive advantages as it allows individuals to tap into a diverse range of skills and knowledge. And quick note, I am using the boss mode. So the boss mode does give us access to the documents and a lot more stuff. I do recommend using the boss mode if you're trying to write longer form content like this. And if you check out some of the details of the different packages, I don't know what the other one's called, like the basic or something, but the boss mode has more stuff and you can do a lot more with it. It's just more powerful generally. So I do recommend it. And by the way, I am an affiliate for Jasper, so I get a commission if you sign up for it. I also have a basically set of free resources. There's a link in the description, and all you have to do is go sign up, and you enter your name and email address, and you get access to the course. And it's inside my course platform, but basically it gives you resources. I have other tutorials and stuff like that in there, and I'll be adding to it over time as I test Jasper more thoroughly, plus other tools. I'm going to be checking out a bunch of other tools as well. So it'll be kind of a repository, a set of resources that grows over time. So back to it here. So we have, I already know like what I want to cover in here. So what is it and why is it powerful? So I could take out the blog title ideas right here. I don't need that. Although it could be, it could be good to see what we can name it if they have other ideas. So these commands after the little greater than sign here, those basically will give us new ideas, whatever it is. These are specific commands, and you could actually type these in, and Jasper understands what you're trying to do. So we do have some choices for a title, and we could update our title. So I put this in sort of as a placeholder of what I wanted to cover, but these are more, these are a little more interesting. So, maybe we can maybe we'll use the second one here, and I'll leave these in just in case I want to come back to it later. So I've updated the title, and at this point, what we can do, I'm going to move these up here, I think is what I want to do. Can I do that? Okay, we'll leave them there for now. So write an introduction, and I could just click compose right here. But what we can do is put in a little bit more information, and what we can do is actually seed the content description with the previous portion that was written here. And we are, we're going to run out of number of characters because we only get 600 in here. But what I can do is just take out, this headings and such. So we end up with fewer characters, and we should be good to go. So at this point, we're hopping back down to write an introduction, and it's an introduction based on this content description and brief. So let's see what we come up with. I'm not sure why it's saying I have no clue. It's potentially something that I've done, but I don't see what I have done. And that is, something that happens with these tools. Sometimes you end up with something weird. Typically it's probably my fault, right? It's my fault. I'm not sure why it keeps repeating this thing here, but of course I could just delete it and get rid of that. So we'll get rid of these. And since we did name it already, I'm just going to get rid of those. And then I'm just going to paste them up here in case we do want to come back to them. You can actually format stuff here. So you could change that to an H2 tag, H2 as well. Now we have an intro. So we have the intro, and we can go from there. And what I'm going to do also, thinking of this as a blog post, which I am going to target roughly 1,000 words or so. So we have this intro to get started, but also we end up in the middle of a sentence here. So I'm going to click compose. So hopefully it should finish up what the thought was. And that's one of the things that you run into is sometimes it'll stop in the middle of a thought. So I'm just going to hop down and paste what we already had before. So what is talent stacking? Why is it important? Great. So we have actually quite a bit of information here. We're already up to 434 words. I did jump ahead because I liked what we were seeing, but let's see what happens if we're at write a blog outline. We have this additional information. And with the boss mode, Jasper actually looks back at what you've already written and the information that you have in there. So let's see what they come up with. So I'll click compose here. It's checking the command. So we have an outline. So introduction. So why is it important? Identifying your strengths and weaknesses, and then pursuing new interests and activities. So that's 3. Let's see. And we'll keep going because it stopped in the middle of a thought. So developing new skills and a conclusion. Very good. One thing I do want to see in here is examples. So we'll come to that. We'll call it 5. I haven't done this before, so hopefully it'll work. And then it didn't. It just fucking told me, that's 1 now. So let's pop back. And I do want to have examples in here, and I don't know how to make it understand what I'm trying to number here. We'll try it one more time. Okay. So a little frustrating with that. It's just going to renumber stuff, and we will have a conclusion there. We will have examples. We won't worry about the numbering, right? It's not as important. We're just trying to get the content down here. So we will have the conclusion and what we can do, right? So we have these outline sections here, and we could just fill them in. So there are 4 points in here. And what I can do, so we have, or actually there's only 3 points. So identifying your strengths and weaknesses. And then what we'll have here is, I'll say, write about. And this will be examples, which it'll be very key for me to feed in information. So we have something, or we can see what it comes up with. Okay. So I'm going to copy and paste these pieces in the proper order, and then we'll seed the content brief properly, and then see what we come up with. For the content brief, what I'm going to do is take this information here and just replace it. So you constantly need to update that section over there. The other thing you can do is take this specific section and add it to the title if you wanted to give Jasper a little bit more of an idea of what you're looking for. I don't want to confuse things too much, so we'll just try and leave it as this. So identifying your strengths and weaknesses, and hopefully Jasper will understand that we're talking about the section above here. One thing I could have done a little bit differently is just copy this whole section down below. So I don't think it'll cause a huge issue, but what I'll do is I'll actually delete this stuff here, so that when Jasper looks at the previous information, the previous data, it is just above. And I do realize there's a lot of Grammarly suggestions, which I'll come back to it later. I just want to get the draft done, and then we can come back to it. So I'm going to clean things up, and then I'll click compose. So it talks about strengths and weaknesses here. We did it in the middle of a thought, so I'll keep on clicking compose. And of course, once it finishes a section, we can go back and, read more. Okay. So once you have a good understanding of the strengths and weaknesses, you can start looking for opportunities to develop new skills that will complement your existing ones, and how to use talent stacking to your advantage, a guide for creating a more diverse skill set. So we're kind of jumping into another area here. I'm not sure. So identifying strengths and weaknesses. It's in the middle of a thought, so I'm going to let it keep going here. One thing that can happen is it'll start repeating yourself or itself. So it looks like they've tried to conclude, Jasper tried to conclude the thing here, but we don't want it to do that. So I think what I'll do is I'll get rid of that. It's kind of a segue here. So step outside your comfort zone and then writing about pursuing new interests and activities. So we'll compose there. We'll let it go one more time. Hopefully it'll finish the thought. Okay. So writing about developing new skills. Just checking to see if there's anything else we should put in there. So I'm just going to put in, what was the previous section here. So I did see one or two of the examples out there in the tutorials mentioning, basically just put in the next section, the previous section. And so we'll see how that works. So writing about developing new skills, take on a new role at work, new hobby. All right. Again, we finished. And did it repeat itself here? Okay. New activities, developing new skills outside your comfort zone. And some of this stuff is redundant, so we will, we would edit this down a little bit. All right. So we'll let it finish the thought. We'll go to medium here so it doesn't write quite as much. All right. And it definitely did say write about your marketing talent stack, which I don't think I put that in there. But let's just keep going. Marketing talent stack. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that. I don't know why it did that. So now we want examples of talent stacking. I'm going to get rid of the commands here. So stepping outside your comfort zone, developing new skills, and then I'll change these to subheadings. So, whenever we do move over to the blog post or WordPress or whatever, it's a little bit less to change. Okay, so now we're looking for examples of talent stacking. And this is where I'm going to hop over to the blog post, which does have examples of talent stacking. So I'm going to highlight this first little section, and I'm going to put this in the content brief. So the hope is that Jasper will use the information that I provided in the content brief to write about examples of talent stacking. So here I will change it back to the longer because I do want a little bit more. Click compose. And then we have an example with Lisa Elfridge, and she's a makeup artist and blah, blah, blah. Now, as you can see, we end up with this, which I fed in. However, there is this YouTuber example of Casey Neistat, and it's actually a legit type of example. And I obviously did not feed it into it. And it says that he was a filmmaker, but interested in social media and marketing, and he was able to leverage that. So not only is it coming up and finding actual examples, it's a legit example that totally makes sense, which is great. So they're trying to summarize things. So if you want to be successful, stand out from the crowd, blah, 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 diverse skill set. So it's trying to put a conclusion in there. I'm not ready for that yet. This is actually a decent conclusion. I want to have more examples of talent stacking. So I'm not sure how this will work out. One thing I could do is, you know what? I'm just going to see if it comes up with another example. And I'm not going to put in another command. I'm just going to click compose and see what happens. Okay. So this happened to me the other day. It was like, I'm not going to write anymore. And it said it was going to compose, but it didn't compose anymore. So I'll put in this for the brief and then click compose again. So unfortunately, we end up with the same kind of garbage that we did before, just repetitive. And this is like, one of the issues with the tools is sometimes they just like it's trying to conclude, I want more examples. Let's try to use this. So we will put examples of talent stacking, and I'll make that an H2. And then I'll pop down here again. I'll put in the command, and we'll put in more examples of talent stacking. Okay, so it's still trying to write a conclusion. And I'm not sure, we may not be able to solve it right here. So write about examples of talent stacking. And I know that Jasper read a lot of the internet. And I'm just curious if Tim Ferriss will come up with any examples. He, I think, has a few good examples. So we'll click compose. And now it's using an example from what we've just done. So I think this is actually falling apart at this point, but it goes to show that you actually can use Jasper to do basically research for you. It could come up with a few good examples. If I wanted to have the Tim Ferriss example, I maybe would need to seed in specific things for Tim Ferriss, and then it would do a better job. My target was about 1,000 words, and we're at 1,443. And I would say this is, pretty good. I think if we think about this, right, if we're like, we're going to edit this down, we're going to be pretty aggressive with how we're editing it, and we edit out 1/3 of it, about 500 words, we're roughly at 1,000 words, which is pretty good. I think that is right where we want to be. And by ruthlessly editing it and fixing it up, you can end up with right where you were trying to be. So if you have the boss mode, you can use Grammarly, and Grammarly will tell you things that are not quite right. So you can just hover over and it will make suggestions. So we could say organizational roles, sometimes rewriting for clarity. This comes up quite a bit. Grammarly is pretty useful just in my own writing to rewrite for clarity. Sometimes we phrase things in a unclear way. So Grammarly will clean up a lot of that stuff. And usually, it underlines it. So all you have to do is like hover over it. 90% of the time, it does make an improvement. There's occasional times where you would want to make sure the meaning is correct, But generally, if you just hop through here and do this, you're improving the content. It's easier to read, and then you're in good shape. So don't forget, you can sign up for the free resources area. It's inside a course platform, but it's 100% free. You just enter your name and email address. You can sign up. There's a free 5-day trial for Jasper if you want to check it out. And I think it's worth taking a look at if you haven't used it before. I used to be, quite a critic of tools like Jasper, but now that I've taken a closer look, watched some of the training, and understand that you have to give quite a lot of information, I understand that it can be useful. It can help you write a pretty thorough blog post in a much faster time frame. For me, I'm a slow writer. A lot of times it'll take me, 2-3 hours to write 1,000 words or so. So this is a huge advantage for topics like this, where there's a lot of information about it. It's fairly straightforward to have Jasper do the research for you and put together the main narrative. If you want to see more of these, subscribe to the channel. I'm doing a ton of Jasper specific videos, but I'm also going to be checking out many other tools as well. So if you want to be notified of those, be sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up. If you have any requests, you can leave a comment. Thanks.